So if you've been thinking about building a house in 2024, there are some expectations on both the building side and the lending side that you definitely need to know about before you even jump into uncharted territory. Hey friends, my name is Noah. I am a broker associate and partners in a custom home building company, Jane Development Group, here in the greater Sarasota area. And of course, we brought on our preferred and approved lender with JN Development Group for Centennial Bank here, Manny. And we are going to be breaking down kind of the expectations on both the building side and the lending side so that you guys know exactly what you need to know before you jump into building a brand new house, as that is about a 12-month process for a custom home. So we want to make sure that you guys have all of your questions answered. So if you guys are looking to make the move to Sarasota, North Port, or any of those surrounding cities, we do have dedicated buyers relocation guides for all those areas. So go and click the link down in the description down below. Along with, if you guys want to know all about the new construction market here in Sarasota County, Manatee County, Charlotte County, you can join our dedicated VIP email list, 100% free for you guys to join. And I promise you it's not going to be spam, because I absolutely hate the people that spam a whole bunch of emails. So with that being said, Manny, I appreciate you coming on to this video to kind of discuss with us not only the building side, but also the lending side in terms of what expectations people need to have when they're looking to get basically a new construction loan.
Absolutely.
So let's start with you on the lending side. What are some expectations that you can expect that a buyer should expect from a lender like you when it comes time to building?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. No, it's always a pleasure. I mean, well, I think part of expectations is your lender setting them properly, right? So most people don't know what they need to have up front. The main stuff, besides your application and knowing your financials, besides that is knowing things about your property. So having your plans and specs, which typically your lender will get in contact with your builder to make sure that everything is cohesive, as well as your surveys and your boundaries. And insurance requirements are definitely a little, I don't want to say confusing, because oftentimes you need two types of insurance. But what a lot of people get stuck on is, hey, the home is not built. How can I get insurance on a home that's not built? So one of the things I want to be clear on is that your lender will only need a quote. That quote will be based off of your plans and specs, but it's just a quote. We don't actually need a full policy. Now, that's not to be confused for a builder's risk insurance policy, which many people confuse. So your builder's risk is something that you'll go through a private, true risk builder provider, which a big name that's thrown out there is Zurich. That's a very big company. But a lot of people will go to a State Farm or an Allstate, and oftentimes they'll say, yes, we can provide you with that, but it's not a true builder's risk policy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What could you expand on that a little bit more for the people that are obviously now when they work with you, you'll provide them some different contacts for,
Absolutely.
the builder's risk policies and true builder's risk policies. But why don't we touch upon, your typical insurance carriers like State Farm or some of these other places, right? Because some people may be like, oh, I heard of builder's risk.
Correct.
I'm with State Farm right now. I'm just going to go to them really quick.
Correct. So, correct. So we've seen a couple instances where a State Farm or an Allstate will say, hey, here's a builder's risk insurance policy, and they'll say it converts once the home is built. That's not a true builder's risk policy. Builder's risk policy is for materials on site in case a storm comes, theft, something along those lines.
Right.
So that's what we need the builder's risk policy for. 9 out of 10 times, or 10 out of 10 times, we cannot accept the one that converts.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, for you guys that don't know what builder's risk is, like Manny alluded to, it's basically like during construction, if a hurricane comes,
Correct.
or natural disaster, or if there's theft or something happens on the job site, that's what that insurance policy is meant for. It has nothing to do with your homeowner's policy.
Correct.
It's completely separate. It's just for the building side. Correct. So what would you say, like, for the last 3 of our clients or so, what would you say is kind of like that average cost for a builder's risk? Now, obviously, it probably varies on the size of the house, of course.
Correct. But that's a great question. But interestingly enough, it's actually goes in increments of $250,000.
Okay.
So For around a 250K policy, you have a flat fee. For a 500K policy, you have a flat fee.
Sure.
750, and so on. So you can have a ballpark figure as to what you're looking for.
Okay.
And as far as that goes, the client does not have to pay for that up front. We can ask for an invoice for the builder's policy and just enroll that in your closing costs.
Okay.
And they can pay at closing.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. And so what would you just say for a ballpark builder's risk cost?
I'd say right now, I think for $500,000, I think I saw a policy for around 1,750, 2,000 for the year.
Okay.
So that's a 12-month period
Yep.
to protect the materials.
$2,000 for 12 months.
Correct.
Which is
Correct.
not bad,
No.
especially if a hurricane comes by and wipes out the whole house.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
So $2,000 goes a long ways in that respect, for sure. So what other expectations should buyers be having when it comes time to getting financing on a new home, on a new build?
I think, having your insurances in line, discussing with your lender upfront what the proper expectations are is critical, because sometimes they don't have an address in place.
Right.
Sometimes they don't have the insurances in place. Sometimes they're buying more than one lot and they're building on more than one lot. So that also requires a few extra steps.
Sure.
So I think having a thorough understanding that there are some moving parts, but having a thorough understanding of that up front, you can minimize the chaos. No, I don't want to say chaos, but you can minimize the diligence.
Right.
By knowing what your expectations are up front.
Right. Just like one of our other clients was basically they wanted to build on 2 lots, right? So they had 3 lots. They were all parceled off as 3 different individual lots, but they're side by side. And the house was going to sit in the middle of 2 lots.
Right.
So obviously before the loan could close and everything, that
Right.
those 2 lots had to be adjoined into 1 lot. So that center line was completely gone.
Correct.
And obviously that takes a little bit of time to get that done. So having that expectation up front to making sure that that gets taken care of makes for a lot smoother financing process.
Correct.
And doesn't delay us a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what would you say, is there any other expectations that people should expect up front, or is that mainly kind of like the bulk that you see?
That's the bulk. I mean, it's not too complex. It is a little bit more involved than your regular existing home purchase. But at the end of the day, it doesn't entail too much more. It does entail a little bit more, but ultimately we work together, so we mitigate a lot of what the client has to do. But I think having your plans and specs up front, I think knowing that you're going to have 2 types of insurance up front, understanding that you're going to have to provide just a quote, not an actual insurance policy, is key. Other than that, that's really I'd say the biggest difference.
Yeah, basically just getting your ducks in a row, making sure all the paperwork is taken care of. I think the biggest thing is, at least on both the building and financing side, is really the surveys, and in Northport, the geotech, or if you're on the water, geotech surveys need to be taken care of.
Right.
All that stuff, because without a survey, you can't get a lot address.
Right.
2, you can't get plans drawn up for the site map. Yes, you can get plans, but you don't know if they're going to fit on that lot without knowing the setbacks, what's going on the lot, and so forth for the engineer. And obviously, you can't close on the property without a survey. So that's the biggest thing, at least in terms of the building side, is, once you decide that you're ready to build a house, I think it's very important to just get the surveys taken care of right away, because that's a necessity whether you go with us as a builder or any other builder out there. It's really get the survey done. And if you're in Northport, get the geotech done, get all the environmental assessments complete that need to be completed, because obviously if you have a heritage tree on the property, that's going to delay us with permits and stuff, and a gopher tortoise, you just have to figure out what your local regulations are. If you're in the city of Sarasota, city of Northport, Sarasota County, they all vary a little bit different. But basically just making sure that the site is ready to go is probably the biggest expectation to set up front for building, just because it takes the most amount of time, and you don't even see progress. Yeah, like honestly, that's the slowest part of the build is the paperwork of the surveys, the environmental stuff, and all that, because once that happens and that's all good, then you can actually move to engineering. And I think another thing is that a lot of people don't expect the timelines, right? And that is along the lines of, it's not just like, okay, I want this house, put it on my lot. It's not as easy as a 24-hour process. It depends on the engineering. Engineering can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. And then you have trust engineering on top of that for 2 to 3 weeks additional for that. there's a lot of things that go into it. And I think timeline is probably the biggest thing that a lot of people need to know up front is, you know, from start to finish, it's a 12-month process,
Right.
all in. A lot of builders right now, they're taking 16 to 24 months, but right now we're seeing about a 12-month process.
Right.
It really is going to come down to how long it takes for your permit to get accepted.
Right.
Like for us, our last permit took 30 days. Other builders, it's taking 3 months.
Right.
And that's just because it's who you decide to work with on the engineering side.
Right.
If you don't have a qualified engineer that, you know, knows their stuff and what they're doing for regulations,
Right.
you're going to be in the permit process for 3 to 4 months
Right.
versus say if you're with a good engineer that we're partnered with, it takes us 30 days to get
Right.
process or a permit approved.
Right.
And another thing too is knowing the plans. So like whether it be a custom house or spec house, you know, we talked about one potential customer, I should say, where they came to us about a lot, you know, that we helped them purchase the lot, and it came down to kind of talking a little bit about what is going to work for them on the house build, right? And saying that, yes, we do have different spec homes. We have spec homes, you know, 5 or 6 different plans, ranging anywhere from 1,400 to over 2,500 square feet.
Right.
And if the buyer chooses one of those plans, it's great because we already have fully engineered plans. All we have to do is site engineering, which takes 4 weeks, just
Right.
say,
Right.
obviously on top of surveys and everything.
Right.
But it's easy for you guys because we already have all the engineered plans. I can
Correct.
send those immediately
Right.
to you
Bring it
since
up appraised.
we already have that. You guys have them saved on file, and we can go at that a lot faster than a custom home build.
Absolutely.
But if you decide to take our floor plan that we currently have, a spec floor plan, and you want to say widen one wall, shift the wall around, enlarge a garage, enlarge a backyard space,
Right.
that's going to cost money and it's going to cost time. You just can't move a wall 4 feet and
Right.
say, all right, let's go.
Right.
Because
Correct.
you need new truss engineering.
Right.
You need new engineering.
Right.
You need new site engineering done.
Right.
You need all of this done that not only takes you additional 4 to 8 weeks, but
Right.
it's also going to cost you more engineering fees, which
Right.
right now, engineering fees for a house, 2,000 square foot house is $5,000 to $8,000.
Right.
Just depending on how intricate the design is going to
Right.
be.
Right.
And no matter if you want to change one wall, or if you want to change 10 walls, it's still going to
Right.
be that same exact price, and it's still
Exactly.
going to take that same 4 to 8 week timeline.
Right.
And a lot of people need to know that going into it is
Right.
if they choose a spec home and they're like, oh, it'll be easy just to change one wall.
Right.
But if they already have, you know, they're like, oh, well, I could live with this wall being here.
Right.
Well, if you're already changing one thing, you might as well change all of it because
Right.
you're going to spend the
Cost.
same amount of time, right, on the cost aspect of it, of engineering the plans. It's going to be your own plan
Right.
versus a typical spec home plan.
Correct. Right.
So I think timelines, expectations on spec homes versus custom homes is a big thing that
Right.
a lot of people know going into it for the building process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to keep this video short, but I appreciate you taking the time kind of talking to us about some expectations on the lending side
Absolutely.
and of course on the building side too. So if you guys have any other further questions about building a house here in Sarasota County, Northport, Venice, wherever that may be here in the greater Sarasota area, you guys can definitely reach out to us with our contact information down below. And if you guys want to speak with Manny directly about getting financing on a new build, new construction home, custom home, or even a pre-existing home, I will leave his contact information down in the description down below. And if you guys want to know more about, you know, the general surroundings of Sarasota, Northport, Venice, we do have dedicated buyers relocation guides, along with, if you guys are solely focused on new construction, we do have a dedicated email VIP list that you guys can sign up for. It's 100% free, and I promise you, it's not going to be any spam emails. It's only going to be information that you guys are really wanting to know about. So all those links are in the description down below. And if you guys have any other further questions, put them in the comments section. But with all that being said, I appreciate you guys checking out this video, and we will catch you guys all next week.